Guinness. And, you know, as we continue these discussions and continue to make the case, even those who are otherwise minded or who don't have the time, neighbor, at some point, they will go seek out information for themselves to be convinced, if we can convince them, that the PMP is not good for Jamaica.
Okay. No, I went somewhere today, and the reason why I'm here where I am tonight with this topic is because I was in the bank, and I realized some guys come in there. They're struggling, man, to just sign their name. Go to the tax office, and there are guys there struggling to fill out a form. And then I said to myself, protecting at their age, they grew up in that over that time in the 90s when economic opportunities was just lacking in Jamaica, including educational opportunity. Let me put some questions to you, though. Jamaica has worked hard to reduce its debt to GDP, protecting in recent years. How fragile do you think is that stability? And what level of slippage would begin to reverse investor confidence? Is there a fear, protecting, based on what I've looked at, that the PNP only were fiscally conservative in the 90s because they were constrained by the IMF? But if they really should be coming to power like at a time like that Jamaica's economic progress could easily be reversed. Is that not true?
It's true, yes, neighbor, but you see, fiscal conservatism is not one of the hallmarks of the PMP. The PMP was not fiscally conservative in the 90s, neighbor. There was just no resources to spend.
Well, they had an IMF program that they had to follow to the T under the fiscal rules.
In the 1990s?
Yes, with Phillips, yes.
No, Phillips was between 2011 to 2016. In the 1990s.
Yeah, we're correct.
Yeah, in the
correct. After the 2011 election, right, when Holness promised bitter medicine, Phillips had to take that path. So yes, that was fiscally conservative.
And he did it with some help. When I shared a few months ago that Peter Phillips used to visit the office of the Distinguished Fellow at the University of the West Indies on the main library. Every Thursday afternoon to sit with a certain gentleman, Edward Philip George Siaga, to help him to toe the lines with the IMF and to put together budgets that made sure. And those meetings were very regular, especially between February to March when it was coming down to budget time. And this is something I know personally. Now, I wonder sometimes why Mr. Phillips really, I wonder, even though I have the answer.
A little break in protecting's.
Are you hearing me?
You cut out there just now. You cut out. You come back.
Virtually and technically, are you hearing me now?
I am hearing you now. Yes.
Yeah, virtually and technically, it was Edward Philip George Siaga who was running the finance ministry between 2011 to 2016. And I know that. And I wonder sometimes, Mr. Philip, but anyway, let me continue. So the PMP don't have any fiscal conservative bone in them, neighbor. And so in the 90s...
But when we speak of fiscal conservatism, many people think that it's a negative. What does it mean?
Fiscal conservatism in the simplest term means you do not go party with your rent money.
You don't spend what you don't have.
In the same, you don't spend what you don't have. In the country, our grandparents used to say, don't hang your hat farther than where you can reach it. That's what it means.
Yeah.
It means your budget, and you try to follow the budget to the T as is possible. So much so that you can end up maybe on the plus side after you
Yeah.
take care of some important
Yeah, I may not be
priority
giving you a chance to
things.
explore everything because I have too much to. But isn't this a challenge where we are facing now? Protected, where the government is being responsible, fiscally conservative. He's looking at some tax, looking at some borrowing, looking at some other ways to fund the disaster relief, while at the same time maintaining social programs. And the PNP is saying, no, let's borrow the money. That is being reckless because that is borrowing. That is borrowing to a party, and they have to pay back later.
And if you borrow the money, technically you'll be creating a deficit, because by the time inflation starts to eat at that, then you end up with a huge deficit.
No, isn't this where the budget debate is right now? Isn't this the choices we have before us?
Yes, and they are very important choices. But give me 30 seconds. Let me go back a little bit, neighbor, because you mentioned when Mark Golding suggested that the government should have given 2% of the budget to the people, which was about $40 billion.
At the time.
No, at the time. Just imagine.
Hold on. Go ahead. No, man, go ahead.
Just imagine at the time. You suck out $40 billion out of the economy, and you just give it to some people, and they just go buy a biscuit, chicken back, and then go tile it. How would that have helped the economy? And so the Prime Minister and the government at the time made the right decision to not just take this up, because again, in the middle of the needs that exist, you do not want to create or to continue this perpetual dependency syndrome on the Jamaican state.
But why wouldn't the PNP have learned protecting? If listen to Siaga. Listen to Siaga in listen to this.
Nothing can happen to us now that don't happen already. Nothing can dissuade us now from the purpose to which we have set ourselves. The issues are already clear before us. This man, the government,
and the PNP
has reduced the country to a state of bankruptcy.
All right, so that is Siaga, and then listen to Shaw in the neck. Who the PNP don't learn? Oh, listen.
The high interest rate policy of Omar and the PNP has been one of the most destructive forces in the history of Jamaica's economy. It led to the financial sector collapse, where over 40 financial institutions went. Entrepreneurs that previously had been heralded by him, some of them are exiles abroad now. Many entrepreneurs lost their businesses. Many companies that were over 100 years old in Jamaica were destroyed and sold to foreigners.
No, protect. If the PNP bankrupted Jamaica in the 70s and in the 90s they repeated it, why would Golding not be fiscally conservative? Why wouldn't they realize that their model don't work?
As I've always said, neighbor, the PNP are not interested in learning anything.
Oh
the
my
PNP
God,
are
man.
interested in power. They're not. They're interested in power. The PNP only cares about being at the center of influence. Because for them, remember, in a neighbor, there is only one political party in the Caribbean that literally lives off taxpayers, and is the People's National Party,
I don't understand.
The PNP really cannot survive in opposition. You see them here, neighbor. They are struggling, They're struggling in opposition. The PNP does not know how to survive in opposition, because among the PNP are not industrious people. These are people who literally lives off the backs of the Jamaican people. It's not like the Jamaica Labour Party, where you have people who owns and operates industries, employ hundreds and thousands, some of them, of people. The PNP don't have that. The PNP don't have a foundation in business. They don't understand money. The only thing PNP cares about is to use money. You only use what you don't understand, and you use what you don't love.
Yeah, but why is it that economic stability depends on the party in power. Why can't it be institutionalized or guaranteed?
The closest thing to institutionalizing our economic progress in Jamaica is in recent years, the past 10 years, where we see where the government has established our central bank as an independent institution. The government has put in place a fiscal commissioner. The government continued the IMF's idea of the Economic Oversight Committee to really track and monitor the government's progress with whatever was in place. And you can see where even after the IMF deal was done and dusted, the Andrew Holness-led government continued to maintain the EPOC, just to continue that monitoring to make sure that as always in the history of Jamaica, always, are you hearing me, neighbor?
And you are breaking up, though. You're breaking up. Take a minute and get to a better spot.
Okay. I think I'm somewhere. Okay, no. I'm driving, neighbor. Sorry about that. I'm driving.
Are you back? Are you back?
Well, I should think so. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Right. So as always, neighbor, the important institutions, the foundations of our economic system, our economic platform, was laid and is still continued to be laid by the Jamaica Labour Party. Now, the people of Jamaica, they see this, neighbor. But conversations like these that can reach the grassroots person, where you have extensive communication like the ones you have per night, per week, will give the people a better understanding as to how these things work and how they affect their lives. Because the media cannot be relied on to have these substantial discussion, because the media is driven by timelines. Every 15 minutes in a discussion on a station, I have to have a break because you have to go pay the bill them and advertisement. And then every half an hour, every 20 minutes, there's a disruption, and then no program lasts more than half an hour. You cannot have a substantial, purposeful discussion about important issues in those timelines. So what we have now is this kind of media that really caters to the people, where they can listen to you, and they can listen to me, they can listen to Harry, Scratchy, and MP Chuck and all the others who contribute to these discussions with meaning. Jamaica is fiscally strong today because the government in power has practiced fiscal conservatism, which basically means you don't hang your hat farther than where you can reach it.
But then why has Holness not gotten the credit for this type of financial management and approach? Because it is the right approach protecting Jamaica. As a matter of fact, am I not correct that in 2025, the Jamaican economy was the strongest ever in our history?
In 2025, the Jamaican economy was the strongest in the Caribbean.
And that the government did not spend to win an election when it could.
And let me correct that. The strongest in the Caribbean, second to Guyana.
Okay.
Second to Guyana.
To Guyana, because they have oil. So am I not correct that even during an election year, Holness continued to practice fiscal conservatism, and that should be commended?
Yes, because neighbor, let me tell you, if it was ever PMP, Melissa, if it was ever PMP, we would have sucked salt through wooden spoon right now with Melissa.
Why is the Prime Minister not more highly rated for these decisions of leadership?
Because those who are in mainstream media, who have the voices that people listens to, they have They have foundation in mainstream media. They have influence publicly, nationally. And these groups that are aligned to the PMP will not give him the credit. It is us, neighbor, who will from night to night have conversations like these to help to situate the thing in granular form in the minds of people that will cause people to finally begin to appreciate the JLP government led by Andrew Holness. And neighbor, as discouraging as it is, sometimes frustrating, sometimes you don't even have a time. If we continue to do this, we're doing justice to our country, we are true patriots, and we will see the results at the end of it all. We ought to continue this.
Okay, situate therefore for me as we look to the budget debate and we want to listen to the both sides. Situate for me protecting the difference between the economic ideas and model of the two parties based on their history. Take it from the 70s.
The PMP, as you rightfully said before, is in the business of distribution. I mean, the people of Jamaica should be afraid, you know. But the people of Jamaica don't know. And that's, as again, we are to have these discussions to help them to understand why they should be afraid.
And I want you to explain as you go ahead. The culture of it. In other words, the ideology, the fact of the matter is that it is part of the makeup of the party. That's just how they think.
Yes. Yes. They are a socialist bunch. They are not democratic socialists. They are not socially conservative, financially, economical. They are none of the above that I just mentioned. They are just open, careless socialists. Now, what does that mean in simple terms?
Yes.
Socialism has a belief that you, neighbor, if you drive a car, you work hard, you buy your car, and you drive a car. You must drive your car for 2 weeks and then lend it to me, your neighbor. I'm a driver 1 2 weeks. Share in the community. You have to share your resources. Socialism, brawling socialism, which the PMP believes in, says that if I have 10 pounds of flour in my house because I secure food for my family, I must take out 5 pounds and go give me neighbor. And that is coming out of a situation where, especially Michael Manley, that drove the party 100% down that road.
Yes.
Practice what Castro was practicing, what the Soviet Union was about, what now Russia was about, and a few other dictatorships.
Yes.
Where the society can only be seen balanced when everybody's on the same level.
Yes.
In Cuba today, there has to be shared resources. Just consider you have 1 bag of Lasco and you have to weigh and cut in half and give the neighbor half and you keep half your family. Don't matter the size of your family.
Yes.
And when we talk
this belief system protecting is not easily erased from the People's National Parties.
No.
They can't just change from it. So I don't believe that.
Makeup.
Right.
A matter of fact, if you erase that, the PMP dies.
Okay.
If you erase that, they die. Like literally. They frazzle out and die. And that's the reason why you hear the current leader, who is one who benefited 100% from the sharing of resources, the greatest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich.
Yeah,
Mark Golding benefited 100%.
Yeah, but would I be correct to say that nothing is wrong in assisting the poor in having social programs, but you have to create the wealth in the economy and continue to create it. In other words, as Mr.
Siaga said, it takes cash to care.
Yes.
So this big talking that started with Manley, then it came down to PJ and Portia. Oh, we care about the poor, we love the poor. How can you care about those who are less fortunate, those who are down on the pile, on their last luck? How can you say you care about them when you are not creating an economy that will create the opportunity
Yes.
to keep them perpetually out of poverty.
Correct.
Because it makes no sense. You pass an envelope and give a man a $3,000 today. And because Melissa hit in October and that little cistern dry up and no more 3,000, him suffer again.
Yes.
Still, you rebuild from Melissa and can probably do it again. That is nonsense.
Yes.
So you teach a man to fish, and when you teach him to fish, then he will join you on your next voyage out to sea to catch fish to come sell at the fish market.
Okay. So what we have here protecting in our politics is a fiscal conservative party, the Jamaica Labour Party, and a reformist party that is redistributive. That's their ideology. Can't get it from them. How is it that we now as a country can put in place guardrails that even stricter fiscal rules that bind any government regardless of who is in power? Because let us not fool ourselves protecting. This is a democracy. And at some point in the future, the PNP will come back to government. Am I not correct?
Yes, at some point, maybe, hopefully.
Whenever.
3 decades.
Whenever.
Now, one of the most important guardrails that you can ever put in place, neighbor, is having the central bank being independent.
Would you say that the most important guardrail is for the people to be educated about the choices they make?
Until we get to the education.
Ultimately, though.
Yes, ultimately. Until we get to that, we get the money. Because as you say, the political cycle is every 5 years. But it is going to take more than 5 years to reinvest in the education of our people and to get them up to that standard. So until you get there, you guard.
But isn't it political education though protected? Does it require reinvesting, or does it require public relations?
It is going to require a reinvesting, because you were standing at the tax office and you saw 2 men who were unable to sign them name. They must struggle. So it will take some reinvestment to create that balance in the society. For example, it doesn't have to be some big $1 trillion budget in that reinvestment, It can be community-led programs led by the social fabric in the communities, the churches, and the same schools. You could have reading programs which is community-based, so that you have your citizen being able to identify a different from a bullfoot. Yes. Then once you move from there, then your people becomes more confident that they are able now to identify the A different from the bullfoot. And then what you do now, you have the political conversation. And once you have the political conversation now, they are able to understand, because they now can identify the A different from the bullfoot. Yeah. And then when you continue to have the political education in these conversations, then now somebody will be able to say, oh, so that did happen in the 70s, but me never know why. Because you can't read, you can't identify the A different from the bullfoot, so you couldn't know that them did a sum for you. But now that you're able to, then you understand, then you tie that in with this discussion about fiscal conservatism, and you tie that in with the importance of maintaining independence in your financial system so that your economy can benefit from private capital to drive economic growth. And then the more we have these discussions, when people are able now to note the difference, then it will make a big impact on how we move forward. Yeah, we're not going to get there unless we do it this way.
Okay, here's a paradox though protecting. Crisis compress the PNP ideology. So why couldn't they have changed during that time? Why couldn't the crisis that they had to manage, which ultimately compressed their ideological leanings, why couldn't they have emerged out of that a different path?
Because they can't.
Oh my
The
God.
word on the street, you know, neighbor, which probably is not so loud and need to be made louder. Had it
Wow.
not been for the IMF, you know,
Yeah.
we would be in a bad situation, you know. No, look at this, neighbor. They know, you know, especially the
Yes.
current leader, you know. They know that what the JLP is doing and how the JLP governs is the way to govern. They know this.
Yes.
And that is the reason why, as the Prime Minister say, they are not the baby father. That's the reason
Yes.
why you see they try hard to claim ownership of fiscal accountability in Jamaica. But they will not have the conversation fairly. Even at that point, they will not have it fairly.
Hold on for
Because
me, please.
fiscal accountability.
Hold on for me, please. We're talking to Protecting Jamaica. We're looking forward to the budget presentation, but we want to get the Jamaican people to understand that there is a difference between the economic models of both political parties. We're exploring that tonight on the Politics Plus podcast. We're going to be right back.
Neighbor, Harry's here, you know, neighbor.
Harry's here?
Harry's here now, yes. Harry's in the chat now. So
all right. All right.
So, neighbor.
Hold on for me, Protecting. Just hold on. I'm coming back. Let's go back in. Please remember to tap the screen. Please remember to share the live. Please remember to send us a gift, and please remember to continue to support the Politics Plus podcast. Yes. So Protecting. Yeah. Are you there, sir? Okay.
Yes, neighbor.
Yeah. So I'm saying to you that if crisis constrain the ideology of the PNP, why couldn't they have changed and understand that this is because did they not make some progress by being fiscally conservative?
No, it's not them. It was the
Not
IMF. No, it was a serious program because we had already fell off track with the program because Mr. Golding had to pay the public sector workers. So we fell off track. So IMF was literally over the PNP with a big stick. So they had to toe the line.
Okay, there is a benefit from this though. There's a political benefit though, Protecting. Where the state is the primary allocator of opportunity, the political party naturally becomes transactional. And is this not part of what made the PNP so attractive, had developed this large political base, the very distributive politics here? Isn't that an attractive way to practice politics?
That is what politics is all about in a neighbor. But you have to still be responsible. All right, look at it this way. Mr. Wholeness could have just spent big money. So there are other things to consider outside of just spending. So it is politics, because politics takes money and you have to spend, you have to, grease the ground or whatever them call it. You have to do spending in politics. But you also have to look at the bigger picture, which says you can make one wrong move and everybody in your country are dead for hungry. And you have to weigh that with the history that we now have, where there was a time when we were dead for hungry and we get 20,000 cases of expired sardines. Do we want to do that to our citizens? And so as the leader, you have to make a decision right there, what to do, what road to take, and how to manage the situation. Look at it now, neighbor. Just imagine the 40 billion didn't name out of the economy. Just imagine the 1.4 billion was given to the 28 opposition MP, because Mark Bolling was asking for 50 million per MP. And just imagine now there's a war broken out in the Middle East, and there's this fear that liquefied natural gas cannot be transported to this region, and we use that at JPS for generate electricity. You see, you have to take all the variables into consideration when you're the leader. And so you don't have a luxury of a loose mouth, Humpty Dumpty, Santa Claus, to just say what you feel like to say because it's popular and it will get people riled up and feel good. Feeling cannot run country. Feeling is momentary. You feel one way this morning and you feel another way this evening. That can't run country. And so what you find is, yes, politics is about money, it's about spending. We're in a position where we can spend some money, but you still have to weigh the different elements of this. Now, look at what was announced today, which is what I want to hear Ari's perspective on the report. Yes, we rack up at $12 billion, which is almost $2 trillion in losses after Melissa. But the report says it's not all that bad. It's not as bad as they were expecting it, because the economy started to rebound so quickly that it offset some of the expected losses. What if Andrew Holness wasn't thinking? What if he never did consider all variables to make decisions? What would it have been? What would it have been? And so, yes, money needs to spend in the politics, neighbor, but there also need to be other considerations before a decision on spending.
You have to earn it. You have to earn it to spend it. You have to earn it to spend it.
Yes, you have to earn it first. Then after you take out the bills and the rent and all them something there.
Things is here, but we don't know, Robert. We're not saying no.
Harry?
Hey, bro. Night, Caroline.
How are you doing, man?
I'm not too bad, neighbor. Just a little tired, you know. But
You are a young man, Harry. I want you to think with me. Do you think that we could arrive at a place in Jamaica where we have bipartisan economic covenant, where we progress with whichever party is in? You think we could aim for that?
it is an aspiration, neighbor. But in terms of our reality, as it stands now, we are probably 5 decades off that right now. Right? Because it's going to take an uprising from a mental standpoint for the people to demand that unequivocally, right? Where you either delivers that as a standard or you step aside. And I don't think as a nation and as a people, we are that brutal just yet, right? We tend to tolerate some stuff. We tend to look the other way at times. And as such, there is too much of a mixture of misdirection too easily by the people themselves who hold the actual power to recommend and demand what they deem fit. Because, of course, democracy can facilitate that, right? But really and truly, it's more of an aspiration right now. Just like how we have the Vision 2030, that is way down the road where we have a level of political representatives who put the people first at all times, regardless of the party. That's what it will take.
I've always thought, Harry, that as a nation, we not willing to do the hard work. The short-term applause is what we go for, rather than the sacrifices. In other words, Harry, as the government crafts this budget, I'm sure that it's aware of the politics that is at play, and the fact of the matter is that it must do something for the people to feel good, to feel happy about it. The short-term applause, Harry, than the long-term resilience. How do you balance both in making sure that you remain fiscally conservative, but at the same time keeping the people happy? How is it to be done?
Well, for it in a neighbor, it is one in which, for the government themselves, they have to look and see what the people desires, both short term and long term, to see how best suited and equipped they are as a government, and then look at the variables. Now, all of those have to come together and being managed properly, which we've been doing rather well, right? I mean, people have been calling for crime to go down for decades, and we see where it's coming to fruition. Investors have been asking for better place, more communication lines. We're seeing all of that coming again. So quite a number of things that are variable are coming together, which means we aren't too far in actually meeting both. But what would really happen is that the government have to present to the people the not just the pros and cons, but the journey that they've gone on and what were the rewards. And that would bring forth the opportunity cost for the people, not for the government and who's in and politically who's in power, but more so the people themselves. And what I mean by the opportunity cost is you have to get the people buy into the fact that, hey, down the road, we want to not just have economic stability. We want it to be unresounding. We want it to be defined and be protected. But in order to do so, these are the things we have to do in the short term. And this is how we gain, even from the short term, linking to the long term goals. And as such, you have to take the people along. So for each step that you're getting closer to that long term goal, you actually have to ensure that the people see the benefit of their sacrifices, right? And what that will do, because you're going to start off with just a few. In 2016, not a lot of Jamaicans, well, let me go back to 2007. Not a lot of Jamaicans bought into the bitter medicine. They didn't want it, right? Some of us banned our bellies and we went through and we saw some gains in one of the worst economic times that wasn't created by any government locally, right? And as such, we came out not looking the best, but better than where we were before. Now, when you look now coming into 2016, the people understood the genesis of that because it was initiated from 2007, despite the recession in 2008. And now a lot more people bought into both the leader and what he was able to do, and also the idea behind the party of that said leader. And then after they got the first term of 5 years under him, they realized that they had short-term gains, which was in alignment and equipped them to ensure that they're on the track and on the right path to get their long-term rewards that they're looking forward to. And as such, for each step you go, you have to let the people realize that. They have to feel good within themselves that they are a part of the process. They have contributed significantly. And also as a government, you have to give back. So for example, for us being fiscally responsible, we're getting the threshold being increased to 2 million over a period of 3 years. So you let people buy into that. And as such, that widens the amount of people you take on the journey actually gets larger because now people are living it. It's their reality now. Those who would have faced harsh times created by governments and so on in the past are now realizing that, hey, this is a possibility. It is now moving from a thought to now me living in it and continuing the process. Now they get a term and they've seen now where it is even increased even further. Better standard of life, and they're thriving a lot more despite global challenges that have hurt first world countries significantly.
Yes,
we are stabilizing, but countries that are bigger than us, that are totally better than us, are declining, not by their choice, right? But also because we are now buying into our potential. We hear Jamaicans locally and abroad, regionally and so on, speak of Jamaica have so much potential, but nobody wanted to make the sacrifice because they didn't see any short-term returns for them to fuel them to continue the journey. Because if we're looking at biblical times, neighbor, a journey that should have taken what? I think 11 days, lasted what, 40 years?
Well, you mean the Israelites in the wilderness?
Right.
A 40-day journey took 40 years.
40 years, right. So what will happen is that now, as you improve, you give back to the people in the better way. When I say give back, let me correct the term. You invest in the people. You let them realize that that investment is also a dividend of their hard and disciplined work.
Yes.
Because you have to get them buy into it or else you'll never move.
Yeah. So
right?
you are a believer in fiscal conservatism.
You have to, neighbor. Right? Because it is what gives you the power. In fact, it buys the time that we've lost.
But why would any government in today's global environment, with all the geopolitical realities we are facing, not be fiscal conservative? Why?
Well, with it, neighbor, when you have a set of people that don't understand the geopolitical arena as well as the economic realities of their region, much less their country, and then the historical issues that cause them to be in the state where they are, that is what is actually holding them back. And that has also pushed people away from buying into for decades, for at least 3 decades. They've not, well, I'll say 3 decades. They've not bought into the fact that a government can lead and correct what was done, right? There was nothing that a government could have said, for one, to persuade them. 2, there's nothing a government can actually do that they'll think is enough at the time. But when the collective come together, they realize that, hey, something that we've been struggling with for such a long time was diagnosed, right? Because if we put it in medical terminologies, you're going to stick with the doctor that diagnosed an issue that you had for quite a while, and nobody could have gotten it right? Nobody could have cured it. And as such, you will then now trust that said doctor, neighbor, to continue, not just the diagnosis, right? Not just to continue the diagnosis process, but now to cure it. And as such, that doctor now has more credit in the bank. He has earned your trust by doing the work, right? By showing that if you go on a specific diet, because this is a fiscal diet we've been on from 2016 to now, and it is paying dividends, you are getting stronger. You never see it. So when you just started, you couldn't see it. You couldn't really feel it. You felt more pain, which is what we saw in 2016. And as such, some people had doubts, neighbor. But as it go along, you realize that you got stronger. You got more disciplined. You are now not just fiscally better. You're not just fiscally stable. You're not economically stable, but also a mind shift and a cultural change in how we think of governance and what we command and demand from any government. And that's what we're seeing right now. In fact, the government is actually delivering more than what the people can fathom. And that is the vision of a good administration. Because you have to not only deliver for the people, so you can't just let them buy into it. You can't just give them mere dividends of their hard work. You have to also remind them that, listen, whatever you think for yourself, I can strap it on my back, on this administration's back, and I can double it where you can't see it. And as such, for each step that you go and people realize that they have not seen how far in terms of the vision they can achieve. And as such, this administration have let people who probably write themselves off, neighbor, to be reinvigorated and energized to go again.
Yes,
because
sir.
They're now seeing opportunities that they thought never existed. Because what? They couldn't feel it. They definitely couldn't see it. Especially if you were a 70s and 80s baby who suffered in the 90s and early 2000s. You know, saw just doom and gloom when you hear government and politics. Oh, you don't care because them hurt you. And you have that wound being carried for so long. And you're well within your right for somebody who have that lived reality being scarred indefinitely by a government that should have been protecting and fostering and nurturing your very development, not to give you handouts and give you things, but to ensure there's opportunity for when you can multiply those, not just for yourselves, but for generations to come. And when you live and see that a government took that away from an entire nation, then you are now doom and gloom. And it is hard for any administration to come after now and get you to buy into it. But how the human work is, they will give you one last chance. And Jamaica gave the government one last chance, and that was 2016. And they got a good return. They then were brought on to a journey where they didn't have all the ideas, they didn't have all the answers. They just wanted to give government and governance one last shot. And at that time, they chose the right administration to take that gamble. And I'm going to say a gamble because nothing was for certain. You couldn't tell people that this administration would have done what they did in the face of the third largest catastrophe in 174 years. No one knew it. No one saw it. No one believed the world could still back Jamaica under any administration if we had something of this magnitude. But we saw what happened. And this has now given the people and empower them to either stay the course or to rev it up, to revamp, to push it even further while they get to that line. So the government have to ensure that they not just take the investment from the people, which is their hard work, their desires, ambitions. They have to double that, return dividends, and keep the train running and not just be laying the track as it go along. You can show the people what you want to achieve. It is easier to do that than actually getting it done. That is how you inspire generations. Because what is happening now in our neighbor is that you see that new set of young people that brought this administration in 2016.
Yes. Hold on, Harry. I'm on 10 o'clock. Hold on. Saying good night to 2 grand. Hi, sir. How you doing? To my moderator Caroline. Hi Caroline, great to have you. Stay with us. We are at 10 o'clock. We'll go a little longer with you tonight. Okay, hold on. TV. Oh, by the way, I noticed great things happening over there on 2 grand. Oh, yeah, Jamaica Labour Party politics here pushing for the third term, 2 grand. Nice. Nice. My moderator is Caroline. My financial analyst is Harry. Good night to you, Scratchy. Great man. Hoping to have you back soon, maybe tomorrow or Wednesday. Big up yourself, brother Scratch. Protect with us. By the way, Joshua. Hello.
Sir.
Joshua, how are you doing?
I'm as good as the Lord permits.
You are the consummate. You're the consummate pastor, you know, man. How you do?
Oh Lord.
You're the pastor. But by the way, Harry, before I come back to you, I just heard Harry talk about generational memory. Joshua, do you think that the younger voters fully appreciate the economic instability of the 70s and 90s, or is generational memory fading? Do you think that we're wasting our time going back to these periods to put context to all of this. Is generational memory fading?
All right. So I have two responses, yes and no. They're counter to each other. And so generational memory might be fading. But as you have heard me keep on quoting the great Marcus Messiah Garvey, that a people without knowledge of their past is like a tree without roots.
Sorry, sorry. The labor rights are saying it's a fourth term. Yeah, it's a fourth term. Yeah, fourth term. Yeah,
I'm not one of those who jump ahead at a game like that, and I've warned labor rights against it, just like I warned against the third term rhetoric. And let me tell you why.
Wow.
The people will punish you because you take that stance up front. And your opponent will use it against you to say, see, that's all they care about. And so even if you have that in mind, it shouldn't be the thing that is on the front burner.
Yes.
Right? So I take a different approach to things like those. So yes, you have the fourth term in mind, but why do we have the fourth term? We have the fourth term because we believe that our track record speaks for itself.
Yes.
And as a result of that, Jamaica is depending on the Jamaica Labour Party to continue to lead it in the right direction. So that in and of itself is good. However, to put it on the front burner, your opponent will use it against you, right? And you don't want to give your opponent anything to hang on to, right? You can have private discussions, you can even have planning behind the scenes in relation to these things, but it shouldn't be something that is spoken of up front.
Yes, sir.
Right? The PNP made the same mistake and they were punished in 2016 for it, when Bobby Pickersgill referred to when the younger voters were getting more engaged, and he said that he's not worried about them. Those are the articulate minority, right? Because they were sure that they were going to win the fifth term, right? The PNP always spoke of the other term, even if they don't use the same language, but it was always obvious that this was their focus, to remain in power. And so what we should focus on in the public sphere is how do we continue to build the economy, and we show the people the benefit of having us remain in government. But we should never, it is not wise to put the fourth term as the flag in front of us. It is not wise.
Heard you. Get back to the generational memory. Is the generational memory diminishing?
It is. However, programs like these makes all the difference. People like Harry protecting, connecting. By the way, good night to all your listeners and your panelists.
Did you tell the moderator good night?
Oh, the most fabulous moderator on TikTok. Good night, beautiful Caroline.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Joshua, you're sleeping, Joshua. You're sleeping.
Yes, it's true. Thank you, sir. And I hope she forgives me for that, because she knows that, I don't sleep well at night if I don't think about her.
Wait. Well, something, sir. You should sleep well tonight. You should sleep well.
Yes, my sleep will be much, much better tonight now that I managed to speak to Caroline.
Your sleep will be sweet.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
So it is programs like these that makes the difference. It is unceasing reminders that is going to let the people understand why they should never make the mistakes of the 90s and the 70s. Because the 70s we recovered from after 25% of our GDP was stolen. And when I said stolen, not just in terms of being pocketed by members of the PNP, including the Minister of Finance who ran away with the national, the NIR at the time, but also through reckless financial activities, giving away money that we could not afford to give by the then Prime Minister, Michael Manley. And it is important also, having gone through the ravages of declining NIR, declining surpluses, brain drain, our financial, there's a word I'm looking for, not just brain drain. So we had brain drain, and when the capital flight, right? That's the word I was looking for. And capital flights and all of these things, and people basically starving in the country at the time. Believe it or not, we were on the verge of starvation, right? And we made enemies of our neighbors that we did not, no pun intended, that we didn't have any need to be engaged in the wars of the superpower, a little country such as ours. And we managed to recover from it under Edward Philip George Siaga, reduce the deficit and start the rebuilding process, and create some new institutions such as HEART, which today is internationally recognized, right? Fast forward to the 90s, the PNP returned to power. We lost 40% of our GDP. And these things we ought to continuously remind the people about. So with this declining memory, where persons, the generational loss in terms of the memory, and some persons just plainly don't know, it is important that we continue to be on the forefront, of the fight to not only remind persons, but to educate those who know nothing about what took place in the past. And if we want to have a clear understanding, and I will say this to the Jamaican people, look at what happened during the hurricane, right? In terms of the vast damage that it wreaked. That was 41% of our GDP that went down. Care packages had to be given out because there's constant complaint that persons were hungry, homeless, and all of these things. Now compare it to 40% of our GDP, which the PNP took away under the advice of Mark Golding and Finsack and Omar Davis as Minister of Finance. And you will see the similarities of what we lost then to what we have lost under the hurricane to what we lost then. And Jamaica cannot afford a Mark Golding or a PNP back in power. And that is why it's critically important for us never to be silenced, whether because we have become discouraged or because we think that what we're doing is not worth it. But we must be motivated by the greater good of the country, right? And the continual development of the country so that we will never cease.
Fantastic. Protecting? Let's see. Hello, Protecting J. Hi.
No. Neighbor, while Protecting gets ready to return, one of the things that you mentioned, and well, you played a tape actually. Mark Golding trying to behave as if he has a conscience, right? And talking about the poor. The PNP has always used that as a crutch. And I find it very interesting that the PNP criticized the then Bruce Golding government, right? Talking about balancing books and balancing lives, or how much we balance the economies, but we don't balance lives. But it's the same PNP that having criticized the government for not meeting the IMF's expectation at the time in totality, because we had some critical decisions to make, want to then go and plunder the earnings and the savings that we have to just simply put it in people's hands. The best way to liberate people is to provide a means for them to earn for themselves. You don't create wealth by giving money away, because what you do, you develop the mendicancy mindset, which is a beggar's mindset and a dependency mindset. But if you teach people how is it that they can earn, then not only do they become independent, but they have a sense of dignity about themselves, right? And that trust and that urge and that desire to continue to go out there and create wealth. And that is why the capitalist economy is the best it's the best economy versus the socialist mindset that the PNP has, the socialist ideology, because PNP says take it and give it to the people while people sit down. And if you continue to you're not putting back any taxes in the economy, you're not making room for the government to collect resources and develop your infrastructure and all of these things. I heard you said something recently, neighbor, even though I wasn't fully there because I was driving and I couldn't pay attention, right? That the greatest either you or Harry, one out of the two, that the greatest creation of wealth is when government really put back money in the economy, the greatest investor. You know, and I'm just paraphrasing. You know, so if government really creates opportunities, right? When government collect taxes, no, it wasn't you. It was what's his name, Dorlan.
Dorlan Francis.
Spoke about after the war and the business people were paying up to 80% tax.
Yes.
You know, and putting it back in the economy, and it made America a superpower. And you know, this is an opportunity for us to even show the Jamaican public that our government has been responsible. The Jamaica Labour Party has always been responsible. So the taxes that you pay under the Jamaica Labour Party will redound to your benefit, putting money in your pocket that you have not earned unnecessarily, right? When it's necessary, it's different, but unnecessarily, you know, because we want to develop this mendicancy mindset, it's not a good thing, you know. And I did a little a little research when you were talking earlier. You know, and one of the quick things that I found, you know, when you were talking about transactional, you know, politics, you know, and one other thing that I found out in my quick research is that there are two types of transaction, you know, as it relates to politics, you know, is that you have negative and positive transaction as it relates to politics.
Yes.
And we have to be careful that we don't buy into the PNP's mindset of the negative transaction. And one of them, it says politics involves both positive and negative transaction defined by their intent, method, and impact on reputation or policy. Positive transaction include campaign ads highlighting a candidate's strength and policy achievement to build support. That's transactional. Negative transaction involve attacking opponents, using fear-based messaging, or in extreme cases, using dirty tactics to damage, right? And it goes on talking about negative campaign and information. And we clearly see which party buy into the negative transactional politics. But then there's also a negative transactional politics wherein we figure that the best way to gain support is to put money in people's hand who have not earned it and we have not taught them how to develop themselves.
Yes.
Such as agencies like ART. While the JLP, on the other hand, is telling people that, listen to me, this is what will happen if you choose us. Choose us as the better party, because we're going to ensure that at the end of the day, you and your family can live a better life, not just now, but in retirement also, and your kids can reap some of those benefits. That's also transactional. So we have to make sure that we continue to point people in those directions so that they have a better understanding as to why they're doing what they're doing. And I land right there, sir.
Okay, great. Projecting, are you back? Not yet. So Harry, why?
Yes, neighbor.
Okay. Yeah, this question is for you, Protecting. I'll come back to Harry. But Protecting, why is there still an ideological difference between these two parties in 2026? You don't find that strange that all the tested and tried economic models would point to the present one being the one that is better. Why is this still, even as we move forward to go into the 2026-27 budget, there still remains in Jamaica an ideological difference between the two parties in terms of which model to pursue economically? Do you find that strange?
Neighbor, it is not strange to me. Remember, you know, political parties, just like any other organization, are established on certain principles.
Yes.
Remember that both parties have what they call their constitution that establish the party.
Yes.
That establishes the base, the rule, how the party will function, how they will carry out their, you know, politics. And so the truth is, as I was told by a comrade years ago, and I laughed, and he was very serious. He was straight-faced, and he waited until I was finished laughing. He said to me, "Are you done? I just told you something that is true." And he just grinning away and skinning it. And I didn't even take it serious what he said. What did he say to me? It is the party, it is in the party's constitution that the politics that they practice must always cater to any desire the people have. So when you see Mark Golding, anything that is popular, it him take up. And then party platform, it is the foundation on which their party was established. And so there will not be any change. There will never be any change. What platform was the JLP established on? The JLP was established out of a union. And what was the union about? The foundation of the union was to champion the rights of people, the working class, so that they get a better deal for as it relates to wages, better working conditions, better living conditions, to improve standard of living, standard of life, and to advance the interests of the family. That is the basis, the foundational platform of the Jamaica Labour Party. And the People's National Party is anything that is popular, as they keep saying it and some of us don't pay attention to it. They always believe that anything that will cause the PNP to be in power and stay in power, I hit them a do. So it means, like Nigel Clark said, them sway with the wind. Anyway the wind a blow, and they say them a blow go. As long as it's popular and it appeals to the emotions of people, that's what they will do. So don't expect, neighbor, that for another generation or two, we're going to see any difference. It is any difference that is going to come will only come when some younger people rise up in the party with new thinking and new disposition to what the future is, and so they will begin to craft a way forward for the party. Not now, almost not never, you know, but surely not now.
Don't you not think that is that part of the problem we are having with the political dialogue in Jamaica, and part of kind of releasing the people, is that there is an embeddedness of this type of patronage politics that came out of the 1970s. It shaped generational identity, and the Labour Party today, I think, has a challenge of reintroducing or recalibrating the society away from that.
Neighbor, it is, yes, but it is much broader than that.
Talk to me.
Remember, as a young democracy, you know, we just come out of slavery. We just come out of slavery with over 90% of our population are people who were in lack, needs, and wants. And so with opportunities being open after independence, or just at independence, the mindset of people is, me never have this and me never have that, and we always saw Bucky Master with it, and them look comfortable, so we need it too. So it is sort of a now we're free. We know in a no patience forget what we think we forget.
Yes.
So it was always going to take a few generations to help us to turn the corner. It is just the management of the process that was supposed to be done, which the PNP has failed at because they weren't established sensibly. Because I think it is going to take maybe until the end of this generation for that corner to be turned. People who are come from nothing, never have nothing, no know nothing. As I say, when people are used to sitting, then they don't know how to, treat it. Literally, it's not that I'm demeaning our foreparents. It's not that I'm, talking bad or ill of them. But if you're locked up in a prison for 30, 40, 50 years, when you come out of the door, you don't know what to do. Because you're institutionalized. So slavery was institutionalized in our foreparents. But all they understood was that they didn't want to live in the shacks anymore. They did not want to be walking around barefoot anymore, because freedom should mean freedom of everything. I should be free to live a better life. Bustamante understood that. If you understand Buster's journey, Buster understood that servitude still continued. The servanthood still continued, because even though they were not enshackled anymore, they were still required to work for little or nothing in some instance. So it is the Jamaica Labour Party who really understand what it is and how to get the people out. The PNP don't understand that because that's not what they were established for. They are not about that. They're never interested in that. Well, not the founder, but the initiator of the party politically, Norman Manley, did not care about that. It was Alexander Busterman. Every move Alexander made was to help the former enslaved people to come out of the mentality of slavery, the profile that they had of slavery. You walk around with tattered clothes and you're just dirty and your foot back crack up. It was Buster who wanted to change that. And so, neighbor, when we have these discussions, sometimes I have to remind myself that at 63 years, we are a very young democracy.
True.
And so the vestiges of that kind of mindset
still is in the society. You're right.
Still in the society.
In other words, there are people still alive in Jamaica that knew when the Union Jack came down.
Yes. And so it is still there, and they continue to teach their grands and their great grands and so on. So it is continuing through generation. So we cannot really depend on, that's why I said to you sometimes, which sounds a little harsh. Me can't wait for them people they have a certain age, me case and age out of the society. Because they will have to be removed from the society so that when you over here so I tell people that there is a better way and you can live a better life and you have to do it this way. Them over here so I say, no. I remember when Bucky used to give me sugar. We have to depend upon Bucky. Who represents Bucky in the politics in Jamaica today?
Wow.
So we have to understand and we have to think, going right back to the root of what the problem is in order to be able to come up with some solutions of how to move forward solving the problem. The representation of the slavery is still embedded in the decision that people make politically today. And we have to understand. Remember, it got so bad in a neighbor that there were people who only saw themselves surviving and living by way of the master. And when you see a certain demographic of people, and especially people from a certain part of the island that still carries some semblance of slavery and the enslaved and enslavement and shackled slavery, today, the way you see them look upon the man who represents Bucky today as Lord and Master, some people wonders, but for myself who really understand what's happening, it's sort of you have to wrestle it away. We cannot converse it away. We cannot have a nice, mild, meek discussion to get it away. You have to literally fight. You have to literally wrestle him out of Bucky hand. You have to literally run with Bucky. Tell him to jump on the banana boat and go on back, because if we do not do that to keep this conversation alive, then there are still many among us today listening to us tonight who don't understand that at 63-year-old, there are people in the society who are very influential who still believe that the slave master still for run things. Because when Bucky was in charge, you could have get quarter bread out of the main house. So we have to have a discussion understanding that, neighbor.
Well, that's fantastic. Let me take you, Harry, to the psychological component of this. Because there is a dimension in psychology that is we need to look at. When economic hardship persists, underemployment, educational gaps, inequality, communities often seek immediate relief rather than abstract stability. Now, fiscal conservatism promises long-term resilience. State intervention promises immediate assistance. Let us form this to be Labour Party fiscal conservative, long-term resilience. The People's National Party, G, crash programs, state intervention, immediate assistance. In vulnerable communities, Harry, and among vulnerable people, immediacy is compelling. It's pragmatic. If macroeconomic stability does not visibly translate into improved daily life, and that has to be defined, then the reformist rhetoric regains power, because people will ask, what is stability really doing for me? Which means the PNP now comes with time come. This is where the fiscal conservatives often struggle politically, Harry, because stability must be translated into tangible upward mobility, or it appears distant. Are we at that point where the people may not see fiscal conservatism as benefited them in the way that they think it should benefit them now? The trickle-down effect. How do you argue that?
Well, to be honest, in the neighbor, there's both sides to it, right? And I don't think when we look at both political parties in the past, for one, they weren't given, and when I say they, I'm going to differentiate the political parties. One really never cared in balancing both factors, right? The other was never given the chance to show that they can balance both, right?
Yes.
Because there was no true continuity, because of course, you have one person call it the meanness and the other person call it survival mode, which they were strategically placed in. And you also have another one where it's self-interest. And the self-interest is the short term.
By the way, I understand. Hold on there. I understand that George is with us. George Davis from Nationwide. Great to have you, Mr. By the way, Mr. George, I hear you are the powerhouse now in media talk show in Jamaica. You are the king of talk. Congratulations, young man. You left from the say that? You're breaking up, protecting. I'm not hearing you at all. Not hearing you. No. Okay. Yeah. So if you're listening,
I was saying to invite him up.
Okay, it would be nice to have him. Yeah, if you're listening, Mr. George Davis, well, congratulations. You're now the king of talk radio in Jamaica. Especially since last week with that
George inviting him
about prime ministerial, prime minister being prime ministerial. What a heck of a statement that is, man. Wow. Someone actually told me today that he's a powerhouse in media. See, RGR is under pressure. Big up yourself, George. Yeah, Harry.
Yes, neighbor.
Go right ahead. The challenge of fiscal conservatism, and how it affects the political perception of people, because people are pragmatic, they want immediate relief. They want things to be done right now.
Yeah, and the truth in a neighbor is that it came and was developed, right? So you hear me speak of the self-interest. The self-interest is what we have developed mid-2000s. The survival mode was created in the 90s, right? No, and one breeds the other, and I'll explain how. Because when you are tied strategically to an institution, in this case government, the handout and that kind of thing, you are hooked to just the short term, right? In fact, there's an interview, I think it was in the 2011-12 election, there, where they interviewed a man, and the man said him just come for collect a thing from the member of parliament because him not see him again until the next election.
Yes.
And what that does now, from the generation before him, moving from survival mode, looking for that handout, that was embedded in him or taught, because he would have seen it in his life as a repetition, which we learn from as human beings. And as such, that breeds his self-interest, which is to get a thing. And he will always resurface for that self-interest. He's governing based on that. So whatever the government is doing, it has to be one that benefits his own self-interest in the immediate nature.
Right.
Because let's not fool ourselves. We have a microwave culture running rampant in the West.
Yes, and so those folks up in Moko, and in deep rural Manchester, you're talking to them about fiscal conservatism. What are you talking about, Harry?
And that is it,
yes.
right? So because they want to, as I said, they want to see the trickle down effect. But what we've seen now, neighbor, right, regarding fiscal conservatism, is that it brings up a psychological term or experiment that is known as the mirror and glass.
The mirror and the glass.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Now, what it has done is that it has placed now, after what would have happened with this administration, this government have earned the right to place the mirror in front of the people. Those that have made the conscious decision to have selected them and reinstated them, and those that have not.
Yes, sir.
And what the mirror have done now is giving that self-reflection on the decisions made not just now.
Do you think that the government is deliberately doing that?
Without them recognizing, because it is a part of the process in order for us to move forward, right? Because while they would have done it in a sense of leadership within the party and within the administration, in order to succeed and ensure that fiscal conservatism is bought into on the macro level and down to the very man in a Moko and Miss James and so on, they have now unconsciously placed the mirror in front of the people for them to look at their decisions, those self-reflection, and specifically to the generations before, because they were the ones who made the decisions, maybe not the ones that have crippled the country, but they placed the administration at that time that hurt them. So what the mirror does is have them to look at, do some introspection and look at the decision that they made that have hurt not just their generation, but the generations thereafter, right? And as such, each generation will have a different perspective as they do their introspection on this journey. Now, the truth is, they're going to be on this journey whether or not they like it, whether or not they have signed on to it. No.
Yes.
Here's why. Whether you go to the polls and vote for JLP or you vote PNP or you don't, what is happening is that you are now a beneficiary of the returns and the results of this administration. So what this does to different people, so those who didn't vote for them look at it now and say, well, I can either stay on my side and wait for the handout, hoping that time come, quote unquote, right, in order to go back to the old ways, while unconsciously their conscience tugs at them because they know in a neighbor. Our conscience is that police within us that knows that the moral compass and ethically what is right. We just choose to disregard it, right? Now, those who have voted have now looked within themselves and said they're happy about their decision.
Yes, sir.
If those who didn't know have it worse than who made a decision. Because what they're looking at now, they're left with a lot of what ifs. What if they had done this and made a decision earlier and partake in the process and probably have put this administration before? Maybe or maintained it from 2007 to now. So they're left with what ifs in themselves. And now the next decision for them or the next part of the phase for them is, do I stay back still, or do I now step forward, having done that self-reflection and introspection on the decisions made or not made? Because you lose every shot not taken, right? And as such, they are in a precarious position while going on this journey because they can see the benefits. They're now living that benefits despite not making the decision, And they're now looking at, what if I do make this decision to ensure continuity?
Let me move you along a little quicker. I'm sorry about that. The risk though to democratic maturity, the danger in any democracy, regardless of party, is when politics becomes transactional rather than institutional. When voters evaluate who gives me rather than who governs sustainably, then the long-term fiscal prudence struggle to compete with short-term distributive appeal becomes real. And so is there a risk in this fiscal conservatism, Harry, that you may isolate people if the other side can always point to, you know, the immediacy, you know? How you see that?
Well, what we're seeing now, neighbor, and my perspective is that more people are buying into the fiscal conservatism more than the immediate return.
You think that Jamaica has so matured that more people understand the need to be fiscally conservative, despite hardships that we are facing? You think that we are mature to know that?
Well, I wouldn't say we're mature, because mature would signify, you know, that we're well along in that process. I would say we're undergoing the metamorphosis that we truly need in order to get to that mature level.
Yes.
Right? Because what we're seeing, civic rights and civic duty and civic literacy is still very much far and few. And as such, that has to be reinstated in order for us to complete this metamorphosis. Because after the metamorphosis, you still have to go through a different transformation while maturing, right? And it requires two different things. So, but what we're seeing, and the main indication of this, neighbor, has been two things. One, I've pointed out, the Jamaica Labour Party, from what I've seen, looking back at about 6 to 7 elections, have grown their base in each election consistently. Which indicates to me that their ideologies are being bought into a lot more at the polls, despite what the percentage says. Right? If we look at the actual number, we see that. No, because of course, they can have a greater portion of that percentage that went to the polls. Now, and that's one. As we look now, they've gotten the third term, which is another indication that people are buying into not just what is being put forward to them, but the continuation. And you cannot want a continuity if you don't have a greater appreciation for it, a greater understanding, and also the willingness to stand the course of going through it, which simply means you know the hard times are coming. You know there are sacrifices that have to be made, right? And as such, you are able now to see the sacrifices made before in certain areas and what the returns you get. And as such, you will always bank on what you think is sure, or in the laws of probability, what is more probable. Which right now, when they assess both political parties who want to govern, the probability lies with continuity, right? And as such, that is how they're being grabbed and grasped and nurtured into fiscal conservatism. Because the truth is, the wider Jamaican does not understand it in its entirety, and you don't have to.
Yes.
What is happening is that you understand the realities of it. And that is where the trickle-down effect mentally and intellectually is showing up. And you realize I didn't say educationally, because intelligence is being spread across in how people understand what the fiscal conservatives requires from the people first, which is why I brought up the mirror and glass, because far too long we were always looking through the glass or through the window. We were seeing everything that's happening around and being sold that, yes, we can get to it. But we've never looked at the decisions we made after being shown that window. Not understanding that it serves both purposes, and we need the balance. Because if you're continuously looking at the rest of the world through the window, what is happening around you, but you're still making the same mistakes because you don't have a mirror to look at what is happening, what your decision is preventing you from achieving, right? And looking to say, I need to also understand what each government or each party is putting forward in order to make the decision. And that is how they actually directly and indirectly, unconsciously, and conscious for those who understand it, buys into fiscal conservatism. So it will take some time, but there are indicators, and two which I've shown the increase in the votes for the Jamaica Labour Party.
Yes.
And also the fact that they've gotten 3 consecutive shows.
That's true. Let's take a break and come right back. We have one final round. We're going to start with you, Joshua, then Protecting, and we end with you, Harry, as we move up to 11 o'clock, 18 minutes to 11 o'clock. The Politics Plus podcast is on. We start at 7 o'clock. We're going up until 11. Tackling the whole matter of political ideology as we look at the budget debate coming up. The political parties, do they have different economic philosophy models that is still very much current in 2026? We're tackling that tonight on the Politics Plus podcast with your host here. Hello, neighbor. Our moderator is Caroline. We're coming right back. Remember, we're in our first year and we start here at 7 o'clock nightly, Monday to Friday. And on Sundays at 6 o'clock, we do the weekly review. Right here on the Politics Plus podcast. All right. Okay, let's do a little bit more of that. Great night we've been having here. Great discussions, and thanking all our listeners for staying with us. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you for your support. And most of all, thank you for listening and not falling asleep. Wonderful. My brother Joshua.
Yes, sir.
Joshua, there is a cultural evolution in all of this, distribution politics thrives when scarcity dominates, and production politics thrive when opportunity expands. So if the economy grows through private investment, innovation, and export, and if ordinary Jamaicans tangibly feel the growth, then political culture shifts naturally away from dependency models. Isn't that where we need to go, Joshua? Is that the path that we are on, where people are seeing opportunities created in the economy, so they are less dependent on the politics, and therefore there is less control of the politics? Which party does this benefit?
Well, it depends on where the question lies, because you ask which politics does this benefit, but you put two counter positions on the table. One of them is
well, I define the distribution politics, and then I deserve what is production, and then I'm suggesting that those two positions are in juxtaposition. But where we are now is where there is an economy that is producing opportunities for people. Yes. Do you think the people prefer this, or do they prefer to be for the state to be the main proponent of their economic relief or empowerment?
All right. So in the immediacy, persons usually prefer when they get things in their hand. That's in the immediacy of it. So whenever we think that we can benefit from something without putting in much effort, it's human nature to want to do so.
Yes.
However, the long term, when for those who are more long term in their thinking and they are more projectionist than the ones who look at immediate benefit, they tend to prefer, yes, in as much as it's difficult, I'm building a future. So the ones that have the futuristic outlook versus the one that looks at expediency tend to prefer the economy that we are now in. It's it's unfortunate that a party that could, and I use the term could because I believe that we have the natural resources. We have the opportunity, as the other party does, right? So the JLP has always looked out for, why not create the environment so that people can create wealth for themselves, right? And grow from there. The PNP, on the other hand, is a populist party wherein we prefer to be liked, and as part of being liked, let us give them something, so they tend to look at us as their savior. If we make them independent, then we will become irrelevant. And I'm led to believe that, based on my observation and those of us who study the politics a little more, that this is deliberate on the part of the PNP. Again, I like to go back to the formation of the PNP. When they started out, they had no one representing the poor and no one who was a champion of the poor on their steering committee.
Yes.
Right. In fact, so much so that they could not, of the 32 candidates that were needed for the formation of both parties, the PNP could only find 17 of the 32 initially, right? Because they were looking for a certain type of people from society, the teachers, the lawyers, the doctors, business people. We heard nothing. The JLP, on the other hand, not only looked out for the poor and understand the plight of the poor, but decide that they were going to give the ordinary man a seat at the table so that their voices could also be heard in formation of policies. And we saw Isaac Barrant, who was a sideman in a garbage truck. We saw a postal worker. We saw a farmer. These are ordinary people whose voices, because they are in the cut and thrust of what the general public has to face. They understand sufferation. Buster Manti himself worked in security at one point in time.
Yes.
Right? He was a farmer at one point in time. So he not only represented the poor, but he himself wasn't born in luxury in as much as he was cousin to Norman Manley. Right? So here it is, one family, but two different sides of the coin in terms of their financial experience and their economic experiences. And so that is why the PNP, having been birthed from the foundation, from the grassroots, and from an understanding of what it takes for the common man to survive, and not just survive, but to want to have their own aspirations and to build from the ground up, is a better party for the poor. The PNP, on the other hand, decide that, boy, I really don't care about you poor people. What I will do, I'll let you feel as if I'm your savior. I'll burn down the house and then throw water on it and tell you that I'm your savior, right? And then you, if you're not very perceptive, then you will tend to believe, because you weren't there when they lit the house on fire. And even if your back was turned, so you weren't paying attention, right? And so the Jamaica Labour Party is the one that says, let us create the opportunities for the people so that they can live an independent life, and ultimately all of us will benefit. And when I say all of us, not just the people, but the economy at large, because when the economy prospers, right? I hear the PNP, everyone prospers. I hear the PNP trying to stretch even a silly argument. The Prime Minister was encouraging the diaspora to return home. And then in passing, as part of the overall conversation, he mentioned that the birth rate is low. And so when you return home, it is something that you need to factor. The PNP is running with the argument that the Prime Minister is telling people to come home to have kids, right? What they need to understand, just in case they don't. No, what they need to understand, just in case they don't, is that an aging population is an unproductive population, which means that it is going to affect you economically, right?
Oh yes.
So yes, and so whilst nothing in and of itself is wrong with it, we must be careful that in the process of flying a kite out there, that is not true when there's no wind to blow it, is that it's going to affect the mindset of the people, because for those who think politically only and not on a broader scale, they will begin to think, but him out of order, who are going to take care of my pitney, right? As opposed to seeing the bigger picture, wherein the Prime Minister is saying the economy needs you, right? And we're growing. We're not like we were before in the 70s and the 90s, wherein you had to run away overseas to find life for yourself. We're now doing better, and we're saying, come home and enjoy it with the rest of your family. We're now a safer economy than we were before. Our healthcare and our health systems are growing. And as part of the process, you can not only contribute to it through your labor, but intellectually and academically, you can share what you have learned for the greater good of the society. This is the conversation that not only we need to have, but the Prime Minister started, and we need to continue it.
Have a great night, Joshua. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. God bless you, and God bless your panel and the listeners.
Protecting. Protecting Jamaica. Coming through once, twice, thrice. Well. All right, Harry.
Neighbor.
In the 6 minutes we have, Harry. If I should be quite factual here, Harry. You talk about facts. The real danger, Harry, it is any system where economic vulnerability makes citizens feel that political alignment is their primary safety net is a system that will have to change, not true?
It is, definitely.
It should never depend on which party forms government.
And I think that is where when we speak of guardrails, that will give the assertion that yes, these things are in place, and it will still protect the very interest of the people's development on a wider scale.
So my opportunity does not depend on who. But if we should be very, very cautious to say this, to right now it does.
It definitely does, neighbor. Because of where we are in the process, especially in the development of understanding true governance, because what we've been exposed to is the standard that should have been.
Right.
So what we're getting now is the people looking to say, okay, this is what we've seen in 9 years, not 9 uninterrupted years, but 9 years filled with 2 to 3 major events, not just locally, but it also affected regions, right?
Yeah.
And as such, to see how we've still come out stronger than we ever did in other natural situations, because of course the pandemic that we had, and of course the Melissa situation. Now, what that has done to the people is to say, if it was before, we wouldn't have survived. But
yes.
no, we're not only surviving, we are still looking to get up off the one knee. So we took a one knee stand because of what happened when we looked at it, right? Losing 40 to 41% of our GDP. And we're now standing, of course, with help, which we never would have gotten in this magnitude before, which means we have actually done something right in the 9 years going on to 10.
Yes.
And what that has said to the people now, and what they've looked within themselves without even us saying it to them, is that we have to protect what is happening now, because it is the only thing we've gotten since independence that has given us not just what the stats shows and what the performance record shows, but also the speed at which we've moved, regardless as to what is happening regionally and globally. We're seeing now, not for our sports, not for our music, those things are good, lovely, we're happy for them, but we're finally being seen as a nation to be taken seriously. And as you said, neighbor, right, moving from the table to the menu, right? And as such, when we look at it, the people are now understanding that those sacrifices made in just 9 years, because what they're looking at now is the probability of, could it be another 9 years, because that is what we see in the chat when you hear a person saying 4th term, 5th term, 6th term, right? They've already bought into the likelihood based on the data as to the achievements, as to the fiscal responsibility and the tight risk management. Because I don't think we will stress that risk management enough. We speak about the fiscal responsibilities. Yes, they're great at it. But to handle and give a balance between the social aspect while being fiscally responsible at the highest level with what you have has been key to the people looking to say, hey, let's have this continue for as long as we can. But what we're seeing from an institutional level and what we're requiring, neighbor, those who understand the arena and the platform, is that we need guardrails to not just protect and prevent, but to ensure continuity regardless as to who is in power, because this work, these sacrifices made by generations right now deserves it. What has been achieved on the backs of the people and how they've bought into something they've never seen, they've never been exposed to it, that they deserve that this in history is preserved, is protected, and will always be remembered even 100 years after this generation have passed. It is the only thing that can be done to ensure that this part of our history is remembered in glorified periods, just as how we can remember all the negatives that happened.
Fantastic. No, you tell me something, listeners. We are covering the budget debate, and you see how we start off tonight. Which you saw we big. Stay with me, Harry. Stay with me. Thank you so much. All right, it's at 11 o'clock, and so as we close tonight, let's just put it on the table. Jamaica's debate is not about personalities. It's about posture. It's about what kind of economic culture we want to protect and what kind of political incentives we want to reward. We have lived through seasons of expansion without arithmetic. We have endured the pain of debt spirals, currency depreciation, and financial collapse. We have also lived through seasons of discipline, difficult, sometimes unpopular discipline, that restored credibility and stabilized our economy. The lesson of our history is simple. Crisis forces restraint. Prosperity tempts expansion. So the real danger is not compassion. The real danger is compassion unmarooned from sustainability. Because when fiscal discipline collapses, it is never the wealthy who suffer first. It is the ordinary Jamaican people, the small shop owner, the parent budgeting for groceries, the students open for opportunities. We must also confront the political culture when the state becomes the primary channel of mobility. Loyalty can become transactional. When stability does not visibly translate into opportunity, then the reformist promises regain power. The tension is real in Jamaica, you know, and it must be acknowledged. So as we move forward to the budget debate, as we listen to the presentations, listen out for those things, guys. Which party is putting on the table practical solutions that are sustainable, that looks at Jamaica in the future and not the immediacy of relief? Look out for it, because that is what we must focus on. too far to turn back now, all right? Economic maturity is not cold. And the truest act of love for the next generation is not grand promises. It is restraint with purpose. We must ensure that stability delivers the visible, tangible progress that we need. Because macroeconomic success that never reaches the household level will always be politically fragile. I took you from the 70s, brought you through the 80s into the 2000s, and I'm going to leave you there tonight. We'll join you tomorrow when we'll have something more to put on your table, and you can join us then. Eh? All right, so Moderator Caroline. Thank you for hanging in there with me tonight. Thank you so much for the support and the cover.